Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
This is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. We are honored to have back one of our favorite people, our poet, James Nicola. And James has stopped in from, well, you're up in Holden right now, but he's going back to New York City today.
Right.
And he's going to drive. That's my kind of person. He's not going to fly. We told him, there's one airline, we won't mention it. Don't get on that one. He's a poet, author, and a stage director. And he has a whole new book out, another one, Out of Nothing, Poems of Art and Artists. Look at this. Now, you helped design this, right, James?
Right, just a little bit.
Tell us about that.
Well, the publisher, Shanty Arts of Maine, where you can find how to order it online, just look up Shanty with an I, Arts of Maine, sent me some ideas for the cover, and there are poems that use these images next to them, because the poems are not just poems, there's poems with illustrations of art things. And so she sent one treatment where 3 images went horizontally, another where they went vertically, and then I looked and thought, I said, what if they went like this, like the process of the whirlwind of inspiration, that is, out of nothing. She ran with it, and we came up with this, and I'm delighted.
I love it. This is not a small book.
It's not a small book.
Did it take you a year or two? How long was it?
Well, I've been working on writing poetry daily since 2000, so that's 18 years, and so I don't know when the earliest dated poem of these are. It dates from, but so 15 years.
So what you did is you took the beautiful masterpieces of art from the masters themselves, like you have James Peele's The Still Life here. I just saw another one too. Oh, Guido Reni's Saint Sebastian, who was on the cover.
Is on the cover, right?
And you did poems with them. You're going to read some of those to us.
I'm going
he's
to.
He's going to. When you read, everyone listens.
That's so nice of you to say that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've chosen a few that may be short enough we can keep talking about. Some of the book is about the process of art. Some of them is responding to pieces of art or architecture or music or movie, cinema or dance or whatnot. And then others are about leaving a legacy of art. So that's sections 1, 2, and 3. They're not all inspired by a piece of art, but this one is a situation where you can imagine why somebody might start making small statues. This is called Effigies. It's not that he was jealous of her things per se, but of her time with them instead of him. In time, the romance all but dead, she snapped the strings with which he'd bound her wings. Once she had gone, he bought himself a knife, and still today will whittle away soft wood. Although none of the likenesses are good, he mounts the varnished totems of his wife on pedestals, because before, bereft, he'd fallen into a despondency. But now, with so much female company, it's almost as if she had never left.
When did you write that, James?
I don't know. I don't have the date here. But 4, 5, 6 years ago. But I do many drafts over many years often. So
that they all came together in the book.
In the book, right. So the first draft could have been 2006, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And then we wrote in 2012, 13, or 14. And I do keep a record on a file, but I don't keep that with me. And then I just see the poem as it is. I don't see the previous drafts.
Now, James has been appearing different places, local. Where have they been now recently?
Lancaster very recently,
one,
several in Rhode Island, which is not that far from Upton. I was just in Cranston a few weeks ago, and Westerly the other night, and I'm going to be in Westerly, Rhode Island again. That's the lower tip of Rhode Island, just down 395 on May 22nd, 7 o'clock.
How about Massachusetts coming up this summer?
Massachusetts, I got no Massachusetts coming up. I did all my Massachusetts.
Oh, you did us all.
I did all my events. Looking for more events and happy to do them.
Right.
So, yeah.
Did you ever get to Tatnock over in Westboro?
Yes,
Good.
I did.
Yeah, their tops are on you.
Right.
You'd love. Yeah, I'm glad you went there.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Shall I read another?
Yes.
Oh,
keep
wonderful.
going. Are you kidding?
This is another one, a little bit about the process of anybody who wants to have a thought in the morning of a writer or an artist or anyone. But it's about another place you might find art. In this case, it's on an oriental rug, and it's a tree of life design, and it talks about what happens in the morning. Rug. I navigate a tree of life that's full of morning light when I awake. My bare feet sink into the thick and florid wool with Chinese whorls and make impressions there. But by the time I grasp a pad and pen, turn on a lamp, adjust the heat, and sit, they are dissolved. So I start up again, knowing I chased a thought in sleep, but it escapes me like the man that got away. Unsatisfied and driven by the loss, I doze a while, then rise like yesterday and take notes as I foot my way across, that one impression linger and be caught, and that the tree today might bear a thought.
They roll with such a flow and a easygoingness. James was sharing to me he has the blood pressure of a teenager. Are you always pretty, nothing floors you? Pretty?
I try not to give power to others to give me a negative
I love that.
day.
Okay.
Don't give them, and I've actually coached people when they run into other people who are not always nice. All you can do is make them unimportant to you, and therefore you're invulnerable, and you choose to do that.
But what about a medical thing like you don't want to go to? How do you do that?
Or if they're in your family, you're going to see them at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's tough. Then you need a steel hide. Working in the theater or living in New York, of course, we develop a steel hide because we face rejection 20 times for every time you succeed.
So you got a steel hide going to the dentist, right? You don't care, that's it.
Dentist is pretty nerve-wracking.
You? Because I can't picture you getting worked up at all about it.
No, but I know they're going to use Novocaine if it's
That's
terrible.
cool stuff. That's the good stuff, though, right? Then
Right. Yeah. No, but that's not emotion. That's something. In other words, the daily vicissitudes of life don't indulge the dark. There's enough times in your life you're going to have a bad day. You're going to have maybe a commercial failure or an artistic failure. You're going to have a loved one pass away. Save the morning, save the darkness for those days, and then go there. But about a small... people are shocked how pleasant I am on the road driving. I just never get in a bad mood. You want to go first? Go first. You want some flotsam? I got some. You need some jetsam? I'll get some. Ogden Nash. And people are shocked. Why are you always in such a good mood? I'm not going to let somebody get me riled.
No.
And if they're trying to speed, they're either a you-know-what, or they're in a hurry because they got a pregnant wife in the back seat, or they're trying to reach. Yeah. So I just go, all right, you're having a bad day.
You pull over, you let go?
Oh, yeah, and on Merritt Parkway or whatnot, if someone's at the stop sign, I go and I can pull over to the left to let them in. Why not?
I used to live down in Norwalk and the New Canaan area.
Oh, so you're used to the
Is that stretch still there on the Merritt Parkway? Like, God help us when it rains. It was like the bridge that was between New Canaan and whatever it was. There was a big mall up the way, but I used to hate going over that in my VW.
Yeah.
You felt like you were...
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's been a lot of accidents because of the wine, but mostly in Greenwich. And so they've posted, and there's a whole bunch of new signs on roads everywhere.
Slippery when wet.
And also, 50, slow down, and the big arrows, because at night people aren't looking and not everyone's used to, those highways were built in the 1930s when you went 30 miles an hour was fast. So they curve more than people can imagine.
James, I was noticing in your book that now not every poem's page has an art's master picture on it.
Right.
So some of them, they do coincide right with that picture, right?
Right,
Poems? Oh,
right. And sometimes it's just a picture that came after. That might be, for instance, I have one about dance that has some Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly, but the poem was not conceived after seeing Fred Astaire or Gene Kelly in a movie, but it's a nice adventure to see those images with those poems.
Oh my God! So, keep going.
Okay, this one is also this. I mentioned architecture. This one is called Cathedrals. Cathedrals, humble and grand. The feeling when they're shut, they're open. When the builders get them right. The cosmic rainbow filtered from without to half man-made, half beatific light. Reflection round the ambulatory bedapplements that bathe the wood, the crowd, the stone, their stillness echoed from a story where no soul living ever is allowed. Incense, some people take a pew, some pray, some kneel, breathe in, and sigh. I stroll instead, and hear some god or demigod of form say, "Stop, look up, now put the pen away." I hear and sit, look up, then dip my head, the hollowness grown huge and cold and warm.
I always love the way James reads, because my mother, she had been on stage, and she would read storybooks to me when I was little. She became the animals. She would, no wonder at 8 years old I could read, but she still was going to read to me. And finally she said, you can read to yourself. But I could appreciate the way you do that.
Yeah.
Right, you feel it. Was the cathedral inspired? Did you walk by one in New York?
Oh, I've been to many, but I remember the first time I went to Notre Dame in Paris and walked in. There's another poem about that called "Jump." Notre Dame in Paris, because my first day in Europe, that first morning, I went to Notre Dame Plus on the Ile de la Cité, I think it is, or Saint Louis, whichever one. And there was a guy threatening to jump, and I wrote about that years later. But then walking in, I realized, oh, that's a cathedral. Oh, that's why they believed in God. The cathedral in Worcester was not that big. It was not that, oh my God.
Which cathedral you...
Well, the big churches, actually it was the first cathedral I had been in was Notre Dame, technically. I had been in the one on Main South in Worcester. I had been in that one, which
Main
to me...
South?
Yeah, across from Clark University. I think that's St. Peter's. But that's not actually a cathedral.
That's
just a huge...
old.
But I hadn't been in is it Paul's, the diocesan center. I hadn't been in there yet, and that's technically the cathedral because it's the seat of the diocese. But I had been in the small church in St. Mary's in Holden, which is lovely and sweet as a congregational meeting house almost. But as a little kid, you don't know it's small. And then the bigger church, I think it's St. Peter's at Main South Worcester, and had not been in St. Paul's in the center of Worcester yet. But then the next one was Notre Dame de Paris, and I went, oh my gosh. Then I understood what they were talking about in art history and what chapels were. And
you got it.
You know.
He's got it.
Yeah.
James, how many years ago did you start writing your poems?
2000 is when I started writing every single day. And so some of these date from 2000.
Were you working at a different type of job at that point? While you were...
I was always a freelancer in the theater as a stage director or a composer, lyricist, playwright,
No wonder. Keep going.
One more. All right, here's one.
Oh, hold up the picture that it's with.
Oh, this one goes with a picture of Leonard Bernstein conducting.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see it.
Can you see that Leonard Bernstein, Paul? It's really beautiful picture.
Picture of Leonard Bernstein.
Hold it up. Keep holding it. Has he passed away?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was pretty young, wasn't he?
70s.
That's young.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but this is about seeing one of the young people's concerts on Channel 2 in Boston when I was a little kid. This really happened. And it's maybe the day I fell in love with music. Beethoven's Fifth. The repetition, then the variation, separated us from the animals, he said. Len Bernstein, that was composition. Young people's concert, TV, repetition, when chosen, was how we knew we had souls. The repetition, then the variation, da-da-da-dum, as if in invitation, and then dum-da-da-dum. How one phrase calls as for an answer, that was composition. He said it again. The swelling excitation swelled into fervor, sounding off the walls in repetition and more variation. As beads fell from his hair, though that rendition was stop and go, 'cause Bernstein had the balls to stop the orchestra, explaining composition to all of us. His patient explanation, his kind way. I was 5 and felt his thrills. The repetition, then the variation, he said, was what made us, and composition.
James, would you say to be an excellent poet, I sense with you, you're very much in touch with your feelings, with how you sense and you feel things. That adds a lot, doesn't it?
It's key, although not all poetry is emotional poetry. And indeed, to write a good poem, Oscar Wilde said nobody can write a good love poem when you're still in love. You have to recall it later. Yeah. So every honest love poem is lousy so to speak, I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
And then I realized, oh yeah, that's sort of true, because you're in it. But when you have a filter of time and think back and reflect, so it's really recollected experiences, thoughts, emotions, and then recollected, you've collected them, and Crystal literally collect them. And as a matter of fact, that could lead to another poem.
Go.
Because it's what art does. This is called Yesterday's Rains, and it happened in Oklahoma City, April 24, 2003.
Wow,
but it could have happened on Worcester, on Park Avenue, at our arts and crafts and food fairs that we have here in Worcester, where there are people presenting all sorts of things and there's performances.
James, I didn't know you came out this way that much. I thought you were always in New York City, or just
I'm up here 10 times a year, up in Massachusetts.
That's
to do
good
events.
to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Rhode Island,
Yeah.
and now a lot too. Yesterday's Rains. At the Oklahoma Festival of Arts, we strolled around the booths of useless handmade crafts I couldn't even understand. Lawn jockeys made of wire, bamboo mobile contraptions which made pretty sounds but still were pointless, and a slew of tie-dyed shirts and cut-off shorts. There was a lot of dance, too. Natives to make rain, others for fun. I guess there was something for everyone. One man, clad in a beard, white drawstring pants, and sandals, made stumps. I inquired what for. He said, "If not a little bathing place for birds, then a receptacle to store yesterday's rains." "What for?" "To wash your face." I had a sink already, but said I was so impressed with how the stone was sanded, steelies he called them, that I would buy one if I needed a bird bath, I said. Then I said ciao to go hear Dixieland. But when I turned to go, a chickadee flapped by me and lit on one steely's rim, then swam and did a little dance for him. They caught me staring, and my face turned red. So, of course, I bought the thing. And ever since, I've used it to collect the rains and rinse my face in, which, if nothing else, explains the end of art, and yesterdays, and rains.
James, poetry does not always have to rhyme. When I was growing up, we learned about haikus and rhyming. But yours doesn't have to rhyme.
Every poem I've read so far today has rhymed, but you can't tell.
That's it.
You can't tell because they don't do a stop on the rhyme.
No.
Even though it's end rhyme, but every poem has done a rhyme or a slant rhyme. So explains and rains at the end rhymes. And everyone since rhymes with something, but it's not a regular rhyme. So rim and him.
Yeah.
Chickadee.
Okay.
I don't know what chickadee rhymes with, but I know they do. And ever since, arts sort of does a half rhyme with shirts in the first stanza. You know, but
do you give workshops on? I know you do the stage, but do you do workshops with this? And do you help people learn?
Right, I do.
Oh, but not around here though, right?
Yeah, I've done workshops, and I did one at Lancaster in the fall, and we're going to be doing one probably next April with a whole lot of different writers during the day in Lancaster. We're looking at April 20th, the Saturday before Shakespeare's birthday.
But there's one in Princeton in March, you said.
Princeton is a reading and performance as opposed to a workshop.
So there's a
That's next March of 2019 at the Thirsty Lab. I'll be in Princeton, Mass. the 4th Tuesday of next March. I think it's the 26th. It might be the 27th.
I hear you mention the Thirsty Lab all the time. Where is this?
It's right above the Thirsty Lab, which is a bar.
Oh!
We used to do it in the bar, but now for more room, we go upstairs.
How did they find out about you?
I applied to a grant to the town of Princeton because there was something in the landmark about it, looking for resident artists. And the person said, well, you don't really live here anymore, which you didn't have to according to the guidelines. But in Princeton, they decided they'd use residents only, fine. But told me about the Thirsty Lab. And so I wrote, and I've performed at 2 Thirsty Lab events for my first 2 poetry books, which were Manhattan Plaza and Stage to Page, poems from the theater. And then next year I'll be doing for both Wind in the Cave, which just came out in December, and Out of Nothing, which will be out anyway.
Here it is again, Out of Nothing.
Poems of Art and Artists is going to be published by Shanty Arts of Maine. You can look them up. I think it's shantyarts.com.
Yeah. And when is this going to be available for people now?
In May.
In May.
Maybe in 3 weeks, maybe later May. And then I'll be in
Okay.
Westerly again, May 22. Westerly, Rhode Island, May 22.
Where will they be able to get a
2018.
copy of this?
Through the website, probably. I don't know which bookstores it's going to be in, and we're going to be trying to get it in museum bookstores, too. There's a few Worcester Art Museum poems in here, too, so we're going to try to get it in the
can you
Worcester
read
Art
one?
Museum. Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. www.shantyarts.com. SHANTIARTS.com.
Right.
You want to figure out, is it going to be on Amazon?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
Out of Nothing, Poems of Art and Artists, James B. Nicola. Okay, it's coming up this month. Do we have one yet to leave downstairs, or one once I get through with, I could let them borrow, or what do you want to do? Or not yet? If it's not out yet.
It's
right?
not out yet.
Not yet.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Oh my gosh, the books are getting. Well, let me see. The last one was Wind in the Cave, and that was a tiny one compared to this one.
Right, but that's a that's a
Full-
large full-length collection. Some
Yeah.
are smaller than that, But that's the normal size of a poetry book is 6x9. This is a special, and it's also, you'll see it goes under the art. Every library is going to have 2 copies, one under art and art history, and
yeah.
one under poetry.
Definitely.
Perhaps. And the end notes are kind of fun in here because if I took the point of view that if you were a sophomore in college and didn't have an art history course yet, I wanted you to be able to understand this
That's
book.
what I majored
So,
in.
right. So if there's something you could look up in the dictionary, a word, there's not necessarily a note. But if it's a movement of art, you actually have some fun end notes, and they're fun to read too, about the history of art and the periods of painting and things like that. Yeah.
You were going to do was one you just thought up. You were going to read.
Yeah.
What was that?
You want to? Well, I could read a Worcester Art Museum poem.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is there a picture with it, too?
Well, I'll read you the short one that has a picture.
You like the museum? It's wonderful to go.
I
It's
love-
free on Saturday morning.
Only once a month anymore. Oh, but and that's this summer. I might do it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I took the kids down there on a Saturday.
Yeah, I'm going to read the short one. Actually, there's a longish one, which is lovely too. It's about going to the art museum and then how these Japanese paper cuts were all
Yeah.
cut out of one sheet,
Yeah.
and then going down to, and that the whole world was one, and then going down to the Coney Island and getting a hot dog same day and realizing,
go there?
oh my gosh, once a year like clockwork, but absolutely.
Were you there in the museum when they had
But
the
the point I was
mummy?
going to make was that it's like the hot dogs and the Red Sox caps, we're all one. Just like the Japanese paper cuts where they cut entire, or the marble or ivory things they made in the Middle Ages, cutting a whole village out of one piece of ebony. It's fabulous. So that's the long poem.
Were you
But I'm
ever
going
there
to
at
read the
the
short
Were you ever
poem
there at
for you
the
right
art
now.
museum when they had the mummy on? Remember back a number of years ago, they had a real mummy.
Yeah,
Egyptian.
I live in New York, so we have mummies on permanent
Oh,
display
okay.
there
All right.
in the Egyptian room. Mrs. Blue is what I'm going to talk about, and I can show you the picture, but I have to find it here because I just performed it yesterday, so I wasn't going to do it. So you can edit this looking part out.
That's okay. He's doing his best.
I
We're
actually-
talking about the Out of Nothing, Poems of Art and Artists by James B. Nicola. James is living in New York City, but when he comes out to
it's
this
called
area,
Child Woman.
he
That's
comes
right.
on
84.
here.
84.
You got it?
Yeah. It's
All right.
84.
That's a big book, James.
Yeah. So this is the picture. It's of the child Hassan.
Can you get into this now? What is it now? What's the title of it?
The poem is called Child Woman, child with an E, because it's inspired by Child Hassan, the American Impressionist painting. And this painting is up at the Worcester Art Museum. I just saw it 2 weeks ago when I went. And they rehung it, so it's wonderful. It was on loan for a while.
Okay.
And you'll see that there's a woman in her morning gown in a sort of blue color, the same color as the city through the light blue curtains with a bowl of fruit next to her. So this is called Child Woman. Mrs. Blue is turning blue. Mrs. Blue's begun her day. Mrs. Blue has naught to do. Mrs. Blue has turned away. There's a bowl by Mrs. Blue filled with fruit as still as death. Apple, orange, kumquat too. Live but dare not take a breath. Through the curtains, just as blue as Mrs. Blue, you can see a cityscape of quite the hue as Mrs. Blue, translucently designed by strokes of someone who must be as blue as Mrs. Blue.
Oh, that is good. That is so. Were you sitting in the museum when you wrote it?
No, actually, this was many, many, many drafts. I wrote something in the museum looking at it that was free verse long, kept reworking it, sending it out for years, and then this is the same poem done differently, where I name her and invent a fiction and actually invent what she's going through. You look at any Child Haslam has a series of, I think it's 17, but several paintings of this woman at the window, the morning sequence, and this is only about the Worcester Art Museum, when the way her face is dark, she looks away, and in this one, the color of the curtains and the light is the same as the color of her. So that there's a oneness that you have to wonder about, or I had to wonder about. So in this poem, I just decide that the painter experienced this blueness as well, and understood that the universe is in sync with your moods or your colors in this painting. But someone else can have a different reaction to it and a different experience.
James, when you know all your travels, do you have like keep paper beside you and you get inspired? You're going by something and you pull over maybe in the car or whatever you do, and you just get inspired and say, I gotta write this down. Do you do that?
I do when I go for walks. As a matter of fact, I had great 3 poems that came out the last few weeks.
And he's a runner, too. He's a jogger.
I don't bring paper and pen with me while I'm jogging. But I do while walking, and wrote some killer ones just the last few weeks.
Yeah.
In Wayland as well as in Holden.
So you get around.
Yeah.
You were up there, too.
Yeah.
You jog. How far every day?
Well, I go 3 to 7 miles. One day a week I go 7, 2 days a week 6, and the other days I go 3.5.
How long have you been doing that?
Since the day I graduated from high school. Every day.
No wonder his blood pressure is...
Although I started with 2.2 miles, 2.8 every day and all that. But I'll do some kind of exercise every day.
You think that's important?
And even the rest day, I do something. Like yesterday, I went for a relaxing bicycle ride. So I'm not a slouch on the non-exercise day of the week that I'm resting. And it'll be just even a long walk.
We got about 4 minutes left. You've got one more to read to us?
Oh, wonderful. I actually do. This one is about leaving the museum and things of modern art, because the museum in this case is the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And you might remember the weeping clocks of the Salvador Dali painting, Persistence of Memory, the melting clocks, not weeping, melting, and some other images like the smokestacks with the dark shadows.
What do you make of that, the weeping? Is that depression?
Well, it's surreal. It's dream. It's all
weird, yeah.
But it is, you can... He also has smiling heads on crutches in a desert, which I'll mention, and then there's Van Gogh's Starry Sky, Starry Night, the swirling sky, and there's also a reference to Marc Chagall, I and the Village, the Mad Fiddler. So, museum. Leaving, imagination starts to move the metaphors like gobs of still wax, lit a while, my brain a lava lamp, alive. Those frozen nightmares twist now in the heat of recollection. There's a melting watch, a stark sidereal scape with dark smokestacks. Deserted, disjoint grins are perched on crutches, smacking lips. I almost hear the smacks. Above his village, a mad fiddler. I become him and his madness and that village. Glance at a New York starry swirl of sky. A street seemingly swamped in oily spillage. Now all I see that's not art is transformed, no longer suffering physical constraint. Live as a lava gizmo, plugged in, warmed. The lamplight lacing patterns in the paint.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
And I literally had that dream one night after MoMA. I had all those things going like this, like a lava lamp. And I remember waking up, and then I had to write the poem. In the morning, all these things came.
James, how can they get a hold of you?
They can check my website by typing my name in, James B. Nicola, Nicola, and then googlesites.com, and up will come in, or James B. Nicola Poetry. That'll send you to my website. And on the website you can find my email and contact information.
And coming up next, you're going to be where?
I'm going to be in Westerly, Rhode Island, May 22, 2018, at the literary salon there, the Malted Barley, Books and Brews. I'll be the featured poet.
What day of the week is that?
Tuesday night, 7 o'clock.
Oh,
free. Come and just have a beer or and share a poem. I think there's an open mic.
Oh, it's like an
going on,
open
too.
mic.
There's an open mic, and then I'm the featured guy, I
At
think.
Westboro, at Tatanack, did you ever do the open mic at that one?
No, I was a featured poet at a table for Tatanack. I didn't do
Oh, they have a
performance
big
at
room in the
Tatanack.
back.
That's right. I could schedule an event.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
and
all
might,
right.
And might do
So
something more.
now this will be out at the end of this month.
At the end of May.
Okay.
Right.
You're working on something else too, right now?
Many
No?
things.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, many things.
Oh.
I'm working on a new musical that I'm presenting at our Writers Collective
Uh-huh.
library in New York, in our local library branch. And I have 21 other poetry collections to try to get published. I've written 25 collections. This is 4 to be published.
So you got another book maybe coming up within a year.
Don't have an offer yet, but because I had these 2 in December and May,
Yeah.
I don't need another book for a year or 2. But I'll still try to get one for 2 or 3 years from now.
The Energizer Bunny sits sitting right next to me.
That's right.
Do you ever sleep?
I do sleep, and I get very boring when I sleep. I'm delighted to report.
I can't imagine it.
Boring and calm.
Oh,
Yes.
James. Okay, well, we're going to get you back on again. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Maybe sometime in the fall or whatever. Like, let's get him back on.
Or if you have, if there's a spell of no driving in January or February, I can to remind people about Princeton.
Exactly.
Perhaps
Get
that's
you
the
on.
end of
That'd be
March.
wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, James, we'll see you next time. I'm sure he'll be here again.
Thank you,
We'll see you
Jan.
next time. I'll be my guest.